One last thing of significance. On the Dangerous tour, when MJ performed Smooth Criminal, it was preceded by a spoken word prelude. The words from this prelude are taken from the Bad tour, where they were used to precede the song Heartbreak Hotel, which was later changed to This Place Hotel in order to avoid confusion with the Elvis song Heartbreak Hotel. The breaking of the heart is, in a metaphysical sense, what is needed for the Antichrist consciousness to gain access. So that is in keeping along a similar theme as is found in Smooth Criminal. Heartbreak Hotel is about a hotel that breaks couples up and is evil. It's ran by a group of evil females. It's likely a metaphor about the masculine and feminine balance, or the polarity being broken in order to allow evil in. A couple of giveaway lines are, "Live in sin. 10 years ago on this day, my heart was yearning." See, there's an emphasis on the number 10 because 10 represents starting over at 1. Rebirth. A rebirth in the heart. Sin is, of course, duality, which is what you get when you break the polarity. One line is, "Someone said, 'Welcome to your doom.' Then they smiled with eyes that looked as if they knew me." So again, doom is a theme. Just as in Smooth Criminal, doom relating to the heart chakra and the Holy Spirit. There's a line in the song where the girlfriend says, "This is the place you said meet you right here at noon." Well, this is interesting because the heart chakra is Kabbalistically associated with the sun, the sphere of Tiphereth, which I've already covered. But noon is when the sun is at its highest point, the most high. So this breaking of the heart chakra happened at the hour of the Most High, and the Most High is another name for God. So it's a matter of evil breaking the heart to shut out the Most High God. At least that's what I get from it. Later it goes on, "Hope is dead. She thought that I had cheated for another lover. I turned my back to see that I am undercover. Now I can't convince this girl there ain't no other. Someone's evil to hurt my soul. Every smile's a trial, thought in beguile to hurt me." So yet again, most of this seems to be about disharmony between the balance of the polarity. But the thing that jumps out is that evil is deliberately causing this demonic hive mind, the Antichrist spirit. The most telling line being, "I turned my back to see that I am undercover." Well, it makes little sense if you take it literally, but he's talking about being under the cover of evil, which is another way of saying under the umbrella of evil, the dark illumination, possession. Now there's a confirmation of that in the Billie Jean video, which was released right after Heartbreak Hotel. The Billie Jean video, like Smooth Criminal, borrows elements from the Girl Hunt Ballet. Now the scene I'm referring to in particular is Michael climbing up the stairs of the hotel and getting under the cover, being illuminated, in other words possessed. There really is little reason to doubt that the hotel in question is the Heartbreak Hotel. It's funny how there are lines in Billie Jean about breaking hearts, and in particular the lyrics, "For 40 days and for 40 nights the law was on her side." Could be a vague reference to the 40 days and 40 nights that Christ spent fasting in the desert, which is when Satan tempted him and offered him the world. Satan also asked Christ to turn stones into bread, which Christ refused to do. Yet, in the song We Are the World, there is the line, "As God has shown us by turning stone to bread." It's clearly a large degree of Luciferian type themes in MJ's work, and my guess is that the Heartbreak Hotel is the story of his coming under the shadow of evil, the umbra of evil, so to speak. And Smooth Criminal appears to be a direct response to that, which is why the two songs are linked by the same spoken word prelude. While the prelude plays, the word hotel is seen in neon red. Now the spoken words are as follows, Quote, "My footsteps broke the silence of the pre-dawn hours as I drifted down Bleecker Street, past shop windows, barred against the perils of the night. Up ahead, a neon sign emerged from the fog. The letters glowed red hot. In that way I knew so well, branding a message into my mind, a single word, hotel." An awful lot's being said here, and there must be a reason that Michael is seemingly haunted by this hotel, and why it routinely appears in his work. Why, as the last lines reveal, this hotel is branded into his mind. It seems that the hotel represents selling the soul, and while Smooth Criminal represents the Holy Spirit reclaiming the soul. The line about the neon sign emerging from the fog immediately brings sublimation to mind. Then there is the fact that neon is atomic number 10. So again, 10 is rebirth. Rebirth back to square one. So it's death, rebirth in the mist or the fog. And we know what that entails. Michael wouldn't be the first to use hotels as a symbol for selling the soul. The Eagles song, Hotel California, is very blatantly about the same thing. Now, I believe that the band consciously intended for this to be about hedonism, but the symbolic language of the song clearly reveals it to be about the Antichrist consciousness. So I'll quickly run through the lyrics. Quote, "On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair, warm smell of colitis rising up through the air. Up ahead in the distance, I saw a shimmering light. My head grew heavy, and my sight grew dim. I had to stop for the night. There she stood in the doorway. I heard the mission bell, and I was thinking to myself, this could be heaven, or this could be hell. Then she lit up a candle, and she showed me the way. There were voices down the corridor. I thought I heard them say, 'Welcome to the Hotel California.'" Okay, so he's in the desert. That would be the lower beastly chakras, the valley of dry bones, the three lower chakras which are animalistic in nature, perhaps best symbolised by horses. He sees the shimmering light of the hotel in the distance, aka the heart chakra, just as MJ saw the neon sign emerge from the fog. And the heart, of course, being the midway point, the centre, where higher and lower nature meet as one. So in this case, the desert should meet the rain in order to form life in the centre. Now, life can best be summed up as forests, trees, plants, grass, all of that type of thing. All things green, the colour of the heart chakra. The blue of the rain meets the yellow of the desert, making the green of life in the centre. A woman stands in the doorway of the hotel, which could be heaven or hell. So in other words, an unknown feminine presence is occupying the heart. It could be heaven, or it could be hell, depending on the spirit occupying the heart, Christ or Antichrist, holy or unholy spirit. The woman lights a candle and shows him the way, so she's bearing the light bearer, Lucifer. As he walks down the corridor, he hears voices greeting him. "Welcome to the Hotel California. Such a lovely place. Such a lovely face." Face meaning superficially lovely. Looks good on the outside, but what's on the inside? Well, we'll soon see. The second verse comes in. "Her mind is Tiffany twisted. She got the Mercedes Benz. She got a lot of pretty boys that she calls friends. Now they dance in the courtyard. Sweet summer sweat. Some dance to remember, some dance to forget." Well, Tiffany Twisted is a reference to diamonds, so she's diamond obsessed, a material girl. She got the Mercedes Benz. Not Benz, Benz. The Benz is decompression sickness. Now, decompression sickness is caused by going from a high pressure to a low pressure environment too quickly for the body to readjust. Now, in order to remedy this, you would have to return to the higher pressure environment and stay there until slowly returning to a low pressure environment. So, if she's got the Mercedes Benz, it means she can't stay away from the Mercedes for too long. She must be around expensive cars, or as if she gets ill. Again, it's all reference to a material-oriented mentality, a beastly nature. She has lots of pretty boy friends, as you would expect of this character type, and they all dance around in the courtyard. The courtyard, so we're talking outside as opposed to inside. More hints towards superficiality. Some dance to remember, while some dance to forget. In other words, some dance to stay in the past and avoid the present, and the rest, likewise, want to avoid the present by simply trying to forget it. The present being the hotel, the heart. They don't want to go in, and a hotel literally means in, by the way. There's something wrong with the hotel, something that scares them, which they'll rather not acknowledge. In Michael Jackson's Heartbreak Hotel, he repeatedly says, "This is scaring me." Well, it's the same thing here. He also says that it's evil, which, as you'll soon see, is also the case here. Now, MJ talked about faces staring right through him, with eyes that looked as if they knew him. That's demons he's talking about. And yes, they know everything about you. The voices talked about in Hotel California are likewise demons. Make no mistake about it. The second verse continues, quote, "So I called up the captain, please bring me my wine. And he said, we haven't had that spirit here since 1969. And still those voices are calling from far away, wake you up in the middle of the night just to hear them say, welcome to the Hotel California." Unquote. The captain that he calls is the Antichrist consciousness, Satan, the maritime captain of the vessel, the demon. The demon tells him they haven't had the spirit of wine there since 1969. Wine is not a spirit, not in the alcoholic sense of the word. So the meaning is not literal alcohol. Wine represents the blood of Christ, which is the Holy Spirit. What is being communicated here is that the Holy Spirit doesn't live in this heart anymore. The unholy Spirit does. It's possessed. The demon states that the Holy Spirit hasn't been there since 1969. So this heart hasn't been the host of the Holy Spirit since 1969. Why 1969? Well, it goes back to the number 10 again. Just as with MJ's Heartbreak Hotel, the number 10 refers to death rebirth. 1969 is the last year of a decade. That would be before the new decade is born. Decade being 10 years. So once again, back to square one. The Holy Spirit hasn't been in the heart since death rebirth, which is what you would expect with a possessed person, a possessed heart. The third verse begins, quote, "Mirrors on the ceiling, the pink champagne on ice. And she said, we're all just prisoners here of our own device. And in the master's chambers, they gathered for the feast. They stab it with their steely knives, but they just can't kill the beast." Unquote. Well, the mirrors on the ceiling, in the exoteric sense, would typically signify debauchery, excessive indulgence in sex, that type of thing. However, in the esoteric sense, they reflect above that which is below. Since the hotel is the heart, that which is below would be the bestial chakras. So if the above reflects the below in that regard, then the above and the below would be beast-like, cut off from the higher nature, lacking in humanity. The next line is pink champagne on ice. Well, champagne's a form of wine, which just confirms the earlier mention of wine, and there being none there, was purely a reference to the Holy Spirit. Now, pink is of course the alternative colour of the heart chakra. The pink champagne is on ice because it sits on the lower chakras. One who is of a lower nature, who is beastly, is frozen, just ice. Champagne is known for its bubbles, its effervescence. And if you recall, the woman was described as having the Mercedes-Benz decompression sickness. Well, decompression sickness is roughly the same thing as effervescence in champagne. The wine reacts to the sudden change from a high pressure environment to a low pressure environment, causing bubbles. Higher pressure environments are more dense, so they are analogous to the beastly chakras, physicality, the material world, meaning yet again addiction to the physical. In this case, the need for the champagne to remain in the bottle. The material woman represents the ego under the possession of the Antichrist spirit. The light that she bore in the first verse was the light of the Antichrist spirit, the blinding light. She is therefore the lady in red. Now the Antichrist spirit possesses those who follow the world. And that's what selling the soul means, to follow Satan's world and be a consort of the beast. Well, following the world is a high pressure lifestyle, high density. Rejecting the world, the peer pressure, is like pulling the cork out of the bottle. The demon will lose its grip over you and it will flee. It will be unable to stand the change in pressure and it will leave before it gets the bends. The bottle is you. Your ego decides whether to be high pressure and worldly or low pressure and spiritual. The corked high pressure bottle can be easily possessed by the Antichrist spirit, whereas the low pressure bottle is immune to this and is filled with the low pressure of the Holy Spirit. Either way, the ego makes that decision. The ego is the guardian of the bottle, for want of a better word. The ego chooses its master, God or the world. Now, the same symbolic principle can apply to any carbonated drink in a bottle. And the ego is, as I said, the lady in red. That is what is being communicated in this Coke advert. The ego decides who pops the cork, Christ or Antichrist. Anyway, returning to the song. The mirrors on the ceiling and the pink champagne on ice reveal the decadence below is reflected above. Thus, the heart is trapped between two beasts and is occupied by evil. The heart being Venus, you could call it a Venus flytrap, except it's not a fly being trapped, but Venus herself. The next line continues, and she said, "We're all just prisoners here of our own device." Well, there you go. This is the ego saying it's in a prison of its own making, which is exactly what following the world is. Putting yourself in a spiritual exile in favour of the material bonds of the world. The next lines are, quote, "And in the master's chambers they gathered for the feast. They stab it with their steely knives, but they just can't kill the beast." The master's chambers refers to the private room of the master, aka the Antichrist spirit. I suspect that the word chambers was used specifically because of the heart, with its 4 chambers. So it's yet another coded reference to the heart chakra. Now, as for them gathering to feast on the beast, this means that they, the demons, are feeding on the life force of the vessel. The vessel is the beast, and they are feeding off of its high pressure, worldly lifestyle, its beastly nature. What you have to remember is demons are negative in nature. They can only receive that which we give them. So it's an unholy communion. Instead of us metaphorically eating the bread and drinking the wine, they must eat of our bread and drink our wine, our life force. The Antichrist consciousness is parasitical in nature. It cannot offer us life force. It can only take our life force, our blood, sweat and tears. Regardless of how much it takes, it can't kill you. Because 1, that life force regenerates itself, and 2, it needs you as a vessel. So even if it could take too much energy and kill you that way, it wouldn't. It would be counterproductive, like buying a new car just to blow it up. This is why the next lines are, they stab it with their steely knives, but they just can't kill the beast. Now this likewise refers to the ego being unable to overcome its beastly nature, its addiction to the material world, unable, or more accurately unwilling, to slay the inner beast. The last part of the song continues, "Last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Relax, said the night man. We are programmed to receive. You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. Right, so he's understandably freaked out by what he's seen, and he does a runner. He tries to escape, and the night man, night being dark of the dark side, another demon, but the night man tells him to relax. He explains that they, the demons, are programmed to receive. So there you go again. Another song that openly reveals the fact that the Antichrist spirit only receives. It's negative energy, centralization. The demon tells him, we are programmed to receive. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. What you have to understand is, one who sells their soul willfully bonds with this demonic hive mind. Not just for this life, but for eternity. It is a centralizing force. It receives you. It sucks you into its core, its center. Your own heart becomes nothing more than a doorway to this thing's heart, meaning a wormhole of sorts, a black hole, a gateway from your core, your center, to this thing's center. The hotel is the center of the Antichrist consciousness. When you check in at reception, you become a permanent tenant of its center, and it in turn becomes a tenant of your center. You can check out any time you want, meaning you can go through life trying to forget who or what owns your soul, doing whatever it takes to escape that fact, trying to repress the memory, running away from it by living through the ego, but it owns you. You can never truly leave. Even if you kill yourself, your essence will go straight back to the Antichrist consciousness, the hotel. The only thing that can break that link, that wormhole, is the Holy Spirit. See, this portal from the heart to the centre of the Antichrist consciousness, aka the hotel, is the checkered corridor, or the Xbox, which brings new meaning to the phrase, cross my heart and hope to die. That is exactly what one who pledges their soul to a demon is doing, literally crossing their heart by opening a portal to this demonic hive mind from the heart to the hotel. This is why it is said that if you sell your soul, you do so at the crossroads. Now this corridor is the corridor mentioned in the first verse, where the woman, who I've identified as the ego, leads in with a candle, and the lyrics state, quote, there were voices down the corridor, I thought I heard them say, welcome to the Hotel California, unquote. Just prior to this, a mission bell is mentioned. The lyrics are, there she stood in the doorway, I heard the mission bell. Well, a mission bell is what you find at a mission church. A missionary's aim is to convert you to their religion. Now, in this case, it would be Satanism. The front cover of Hotel California confirms that. It confirms that the hotel is, in fact, a church. Note also that the words Hotel California are written as if they are a neon sign. Just like Michael Jackson talks about in the Heartbreak Hotel / Smooth Criminal prelude. The neon sign that emerges from the fog and is branded into his mind. The word hotel. Well, Hotel California is renowned for being about the Church of Satan. The year 1969, for instance, being the year the Church of Satan was established in California, means that is probably the literal meaning of the lyric about not having the spirit of wine there since 1969. The physical level interpretation. The spiritual level is, of course, the heart. Church just means Kirk, as in Captain Kirk, captain of the ship, the maritime vessel. A church is not supposed to be a building. A church is just a gathering of people who have the Holy Spirit. A gathering of possessed people, those who are of the Antichrist spirit, would, in that sense, be the Church of Satan. The mission bell is a call to receive. It is the bell at reception. And the reception in a hotel is usually in the lobby. What the lobbyists do. Lobbyists seek to influence legislation, just as missionaries seek to influence others, to recruit them, to receive them. The real church of Satan is this Antichrist spirit itself, the hive mind. Bob Dylan has a song called The Ballad of Frankie Lee and Judas Priest, which is also about someone selling their soul. I won't go through all of that, but there's a house in the song which the Judas Priest character calls Eternity. Now this character tricks the Frankie Lee character into believing that eternity is some kind of paradise. It is a house described as being as bright as any sun. In truth, it's another name for this hotel or church. This is given away by the line, "While the mission bells did toll." The house turns out to be a place of decadence, with 24 windows and a woman's face in every one. The number 24 has massive relevance to evil and to the Antichrist spirit, which I'll be exploring at a later part of this series. But for now, let's just say it basically represents being stuck in the bestial lower nature. So it's just like the Hotel California. It's a decadent place. At one point in the song, the Judas Priest character says of this house, quote, "It's not a house, it's a home." The Judas Priest is Satan in disguise, aka the Antichrist spirit. So it's not lying about that. The hotel or the church is the abyss. That is where this hive mind is. Now take that into account next time you hear Madonna's Like a Prayer, considering that the video is set in a church and she sings the line, "I hear you call my name," as a call to reception, and it feels like home. Anyway, the hotel, the church, and the abyss are all interchangeable. They are the same thing. Now, this wormhole from the human heart to the heart of the Antichrist hive mind is of key significance. So let's just reiterate the fact that the Antichrist hive mind is located within the abyss. When I say that the wormhole leads from the heart to the Antichrist spirit, I could substitute that for any of the interchangeable terms. I could say from the heart to the hotel, from the heart to the church, from the heart to the abyss. And if we use the house from the Bob Dylan song, I could say from the heart to eternity. Remember also that the Judas Priest character said it's not a house, it's a home. A clever hint, as we all know, that home is where the heart is. Anyway, one of the symbolic names for this wormhole from the heart is the Tunnel of Love. Here's an area of the Ukraine known as the Tunnel of Love. The greenery is appropriate, as the heart chakra is green. But the Tunnel of Love is most famous for being an amusement park boat ride for couples. Note the shape of the ride similar to that of a wormhole. Now that's no accident. Typically, the boats are fashioned like swans, and there's a very good reason for that. The swan is a Celtic symbol of movement, specifically movement in terms of migration from one place to another. The Celts related that to changes of mood, symbolised by water, and changes of heart. Now, according to the Celtic traditions, inhabitants of the other world required passageways into our physical world, which is what we would call a wormhole. And in order to achieve this, they would take on the form of swans, and they would always travel in pairs. Hence the romantic couples in the swan-shaped boats. It has to do with the masculine and the feminine balance within the heart, the polarity. In other words, a heart with a positive polarity is connected via the wormhole to Christ, while a heart with a negative polarity is connected to Antichrist. So this wormhole, or tunnel of love, is a heart stargate. For those connected to the Antichrist, the abyss, the hotel, the church, whatever you want to call it, it's a gateway for demons. Now, the connections don't stop there. This is the ancient Egyptian boat of eternity. As for the Celts, it represented a spiritual passageway including a passageway to the afterlife. Now, I won't be the first to point out that the shape of this boat resembles a wormhole. As I mentioned during my breakdown of the Smooth Criminal video, in order to cross over into the afterlife, the ancient Egyptians believed that the heart must be as light as a feather. The heart was balanced on a pair of scales. Balance being the key word here. Balance of the heart. Polarity. The ancient Egyptians and the Celts clearly knew something about all this. The fact that the boat was called the Boat of Eternity just confirms the validity of that line from the Bob Dylan song about the house, or more accurately, the home, that is described as eternity. So the heart stargate is where you cross over, or alternatively, beings cross over into your heart. Cross your heart and hope to die. We know that the heart represents the sun in Kabbalah, Tiphareth. Well, the Celtic cross is a sun cross, so no doubt it too represents the same thing. The emerald green, the heart chakra, opening up the portal to eternity. The portal to God goes beyond the abyss. The portal to Satan leads straight into the abyss, and it stays there. Makes you wonder about the connection between the Celts and the Egyptians. But nonetheless, there you have it. The hotel, the church, and the home called eternity are all code words for the abyss. It's been known by students of the mysteries for centuries now that music, art, poetry and the like are very often the product of higher spiritual forces who, unbeknownst to the musician, artist or poet, communicate higher meaning through them, which they're not necessarily aware of. This is where we get the idea of divine inspiration from, to be divinely possessed or inspired. Plato talked about this on more than a few occasions. Before Plato, the great Greek poets Homer and Hesiod began their works by asking a muse to speak into them, which is to say, to speak through them. It is from the word muse that we get music. A muse is a spirit that guides and inspires. Divine possession. So even the very word music itself is predicated upon this notion. Now, as far as the intent and the nature of the spirit communicating through the musician, it stands to reason that, as I have shown, it doesn't necessarily follow that the spirit is always a good spirit. It should also be noted that just because a spirit communicates something about a darker subject matter, such as possession, doesn't always mean that it's a demon. I mean, at times, divine spirits, by which I mean the Holy Spirit, may weave this narrative into a song to let those who have eyes to see and ears to hear pick up on it. So some musicians are demon-possessed, while others are simply unknowing channels for the divine. Now, as far as who you feel may be channeling from the Holy Spirit, and who may be channeling from the unholy Spirit, I'll leave that up to you to decide. I'm going to move on now to the subject of the chakras. Spirituality is unfortunately a subject that has been hijacked by trendy, new age bliss junkies who think that to be spiritual is to be inoffensive, politically correct cowards who step on eggshells and try to avoid hurting people's feelings, all the while running away from anything that they perceive to be negative and repeating empty slogans about love and so-called oneness. Well, I'm here to tell you that this shallow nonsense needs to stop. This is not what spirituality is. This is nothing but a UN-mandated facsimile of true spirituality, a Luciferian con. True spirituality involves character development, and in order for the chakras to function as they should, it's important to balance them by holding to the principles associated with each individual chakra. You can chant mantras and burn incense all you want, but none of it means anything if you have no substance and are effectively an empty vessel. You know what happens to empty vessels who start messing around with the spirit world, right? It's not a good idea. Each chakra has 2 poles, and these poles need to be balanced by maintaining the principles of those chakras. So, with no further ado, we'll start with the first, the root chakra.